Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're zeroing in on a company many of you have asked about, Nuscale Power Corp. We're tackling the big question, is Nuscale Power Corp a good time to buy now? Our mission, as always, is to cut through the noise, synthesizing the latest financial reports, market data, and expert analyses to bring you truly essential insights. We want to help you become well-informed on this crucial investment decision. And hey, if you find this discussion valuable, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and maybe leave a comment. Oh, and if there's a specific company you'd like us to look into next, definitely drop a comment below. So today, we'll be exploring Nuscale's financial health, their competitive edge, recent market performance, and, the significant catalysts and risks ahead. What's truly compelling here is understanding how a company leading in critical small modular reactor technology, SMRs, navigates this massive future potential against, today's early stage financial realities, especially with that surging demand for clean baseload power from sectors like AI data centers.
We're pulling from a robust stack of sources, including recent stock analyses and catalyst reports, to bring you this comprehensive look. Okay, so let's kick things off with Nuscale's financial picture. When we look at the numbers, what story do they tell us about the company's operational health right now?
Right. Well, it's important to remember that for a company pioneering new energy tech like Nuscale, the financials often reflect heavy investment rather than, immediate profit. So for the full fiscal year 2024, Nuscale reported $28.4 million in revenue, which is actually up from $15.4 million in 2023.
So growth there.
Yes, positive growth, but it's crucial to understand where this revenue comes from. It's from early stage project and engineering services. It's not from the commercial sales of the SMR modules themselves, not yet.
Okay.
And even looking at the Q2 2025 updates, we see continued revenue growth, but again, it's primarily driven by those engineering studies. Still no substantial product revenue booked.
That's a really important distinction for our listeners trying to gauge Nuscale's true progress. So while engineering services are bringing in some cash, how does that translate to their bottom line? Are they profitable yet?
No, not yet. Profitability isn't there, and frankly, that's pretty much expected for a company at this stage of development. Nuscale reported a net loss of about $191.5 million for 2024.
Wow.
Yeah, these losses are mainly due to their significant investment in R&D, navigating those complex regulatory approvals, and scaling up their workforce to get ready for commercial operations down the line. Management hasn't given us firm guidance for 2025 or beyond, largely because the timing of that first SMR deployment is still a bit up in the air.
Makes sense.
But the general consensus among analysts projects continued losses through at least 2026. It all really depends on customer progress and, crucially, getting manufacturing scaled up.
So they're spending heavily to get this, revolutionary technology off the ground. That makes perfect sense. But for listeners who understand how capital-intensive early-stage tech is, does their cash position give them enough runway? Enough to realistically hit commercialization without, say, significant additional dilution?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And on that front, their financial stability actually appears quite strong. As of June 30, 2025, Nuscale boasts pretty solid liquidity. They've got $297.7 million in cash, plus another $123.1 million in short-term investments, and $69.2 million in long-term investments. And here's a key point. The company has no debt outstanding.
No debt. That's significant.
Absolutely. It's a huge positive as they navigate this capital-intensive phase. Now, regarding their cash burn, operating cash outflow for the first 2 quarters of 2025 actually improved. It was down to an estimated of $56.1 million from managed $69.5 million year over year.
So they're managing costs better.
It suggests careful cost management, possibly linked to that substantial 28% workforce reduction they did back in January 2024. They also recently boosted their liquidity, raised almost $100 million through an at-the-market equity program.
Like an ATM program.
Right, basically selling shares directly into the market over time. Not a big single offering. This did increase their total share count, though, to 133.9 million. And it's worth noting they have $99.5 million in long lead material orders, which does signal that transition towards commercialization.
Right.
One area to watch, however, there's an ongoing material weakness noted in their IT and financial controls.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean anything nefarious, but it flags that their internal processes for accurate financial reporting need strengthening. It's actually pretty common in fast-growing companies, but still an important watch point. They say, remediation is in progress.
Okay, good to know. So they've got the cash, no debt, a great foundation for this stage. But money alone doesn't win the race, right?
Hmm.
What gives Nuscale its unique edge, its moat, against what seems like a growing field of competitors in this SMR space?
What truly differentiates Nuscale, I think, is its significant competitive moat, and that's primarily driven by their regulatory leadership. That NRC standard design approval, it isn't just a piece of paper. It represents like a multi-billion-dollar, decade-long regulatory gauntlet that they've successfully cleared.
And others haven't.
No U.S. peer has matched that yet. This isn't just a small edge. It's a massive, almost unassailable first-mover advantage in the domestic market. It lets them focus on execution while competitors are still stuck navigating those initial hurdles.
Right.
So this makes them the first mover in the U.S. lightwater SMR market with a design that's, well, commercially ready. In terms of customer traction, they have key pending projects like the RoPower project in Romania, that's in the FEED study phase, front-end engineering design.
Okay, the blueprint stage.
Exactly, finalizing the technical plan and costs before construction. And they also have ongoing efforts with Entry 1 energy plants, but it's not without risks. Customer concentration is one, and obviously the critical execution on these first commercial orders, those remain significant watch points.
Sure.
And while competition from big players like Fluor and Westinghouse, plus other SMR startups, is heating up globally, Nuscale's regulatory lead currently gives them a very strong advantage here in the U.S.
Yeah, that regulatory advantage is definitely a clear differentiator. But how has the market actually responded to this blend of, immense potential and those early-stage financial realities? Let's turn to the stock's performance.
Yeah, let's look at the market dynamics. Nuscale's share price closed at $34.52 on September 5th, 2025. Recently, it's been trading in a range between about $30 and $38.
Okay, bit of a range there.
Exactly. We've seen some notable support around that $28, $30 level, while it seems to face resistance near $38, $40. The stock's trend has been, well, quite volatile, often driven by specific news events.
Like that NRC approval?
Precisely. We saw a surge post-NRC approval back in May 2025, but then typically that was followed by some profit-taking and, broader sector rotation, pulling things back down. Looking at indicators, the 50-day moving average is estimated near $33, with the 200-day maybe around $35. The RSI, the Relative Strength Index, which measures momentum, it's been ranging from 45-60. That kind of reflects a choppy sideways to bullish sentiment, but with frequent momentum reversals. It's not a smooth ride. And its beta, which measures volatility against the market, it's above 1.5.
It's definitely more volatile than the average stock.
Yeah, meaning its price swings are often more pronounced. They're closely tied to regulatory news, catalyst risks, and just general movements within the small and mid-cap sector.
Now, let's turn to the pulse of the market itself. What specific events have really resonated with investors over the last few months? How have they shaped sentiment around Nuscale?
Well, the past quarter has seen some really significant developments, actually. Back in September 2025, Nuscale announced support for that landmark TVA Entry 1 deal.
Where you mentioned Entry 1 earlier, this is the big one.
This is the big one. And it's not just about the megawatts, though 6 gigawatts is huge, enough to power millions of homes. But crucially, it represents a profound validation. Think about it. This is the stable, always-on energy source that AI data centers desperately need. It signals a potential turning point where SMRs aren't just some future concept, but maybe a tangible, preferred solution for the most demanding, mission-critical energy users.
So moving beyond just potential.
Exactly. That's the real insight here, I think. Nuscale might be moving from being seen as just a speculative tech play to potentially an essential infrastructure provider. That deal alone drove the stock up early 16%. Analysts, media, they all emphasize the strategic impact.
That TVA Entry 1 deal certainly sounds like a game changer. But, for a company still in its early stages, how much does a landmark support announcement translate into immediate tangible revenue? Or maybe a reduction in that cash burn investors are watching so closely? What else moved the needle?
That's a fair challenge. And you're right, while the long-term revenue potential is huge, the immediate cash flow from these initial stages is still mostly focused on that engineering and design work. Then, back in August 2025, their Q2 financial results, they showed higher business development costs. But that actually reflects the company's crucial transition, right? Moving from R&D towards commercial operations as they actively chase customer opportunities. especially after getting that upgraded 77 milliW module approved by the NRC. Around that time, they also announced participation in multiple investor conferences, which signals, growing institutional interest. They're getting out there.
Makes sense.
And in July 2025, Nuscale secured a second NRC design approval, this time for that upgraded 77 milliW SMR. That was a first in the sector.
Another first.
Yeah, it reinforces their unique regulatory position, and apparently it's catalyzed negotiations with several prospective customers. That same month, they also brought on Shahram Ghassemian as chief legal officer. He's an experienced veteran, seems like a move to bolster their focus on legal, compliance, government affairs as they gear up for commercial expansion.
So we've covered the big news events. What about those who presumably know the company best, the insiders? What are they doing? And what's the broader market sentiment from analysts and, the retail crowd?
Right, this brings us to that critical point of conviction. Regarding insider activity, there was a planned sale, noted 18,206 Class A shares, about $808,000 worth, by a director back in August 2025. But it's important to clarify, these were shares received as restricted stock compensation. It wasn't an open market buy or sell decision reflecting sentiment.
Ah, okay, that's different.
Exactly. And there haven't been any other significant insider sales in the prior 3 months. So that suggests no widespread insider bearishness, at least not visibly. From the analyst community, the recent consensus seems to be, neutral to cautious.
Cautious, why?
They often cite the delayed cash flows and the need to actually achieve execution milestones as hurdles. Show us the progress. Upgrades are certainly possible, but analysts seem to be waiting for concrete customer contract bookings before really shifting their ratings upward.
Okay, show me mode.
Pretty much. And social sentiment, reflecting maybe the broader market or retail view, tends to be a bit choppy. It gets positive on regulatory wins like those NRC approvals.
Understandable.
But remains cautious when it comes to the cash burn and the current lack of substantial commercial sales. That uncertainty weighs on things.
Okay, considering all this complex picture, what does it mean for Nuscale's future trajectory? What potential catalysts could really move the needle in the coming months and years? And conversely, what are the major hurdles we need to be aware of?
Right. Zooming out, the near-term outlook, say the next 3 months or so, is actually packed with potential market movers, things investors should watch. We're looking at October 15th, 2025 for their Q3 earnings release. That should offer crucial clarity on the TVA Entra 1 deployment progress, other customer deals, and how that revenue runway is evolving.
Okay, Q3 earnings, October 15th.
Then October 31st, that could see considerable stock volatility. Why? Major benchmarks and ETF rebalancing events happen around then. Global asset managers adjusting portfolios could impact the stock.
Index rebalancing.
Exactly. Then in November, specifically the 20th, we'll get the major U.S. institutional 13F filings. Those show what the big funds are buying or selling, serving as leading indicators for market positioning.
See where the big money is going.
Precisely. Then, November 28th, there might be a sector holiday or a global SMR market update. If SMR growth forecasts get upgraded, that could act as a positive sentiment catalyst for the whole sector, including Nuscale. And finally, December 15th should bring us their Q4 pre-earnings guidance, giving an early glimpse into year-end performance.
That's a lot of potential activity packed into the short term, definitely giving investors plenty to watch. What about the longer-term catalysts, the things that could truly transform Nuscale's investment profile down the road?
Yeah, looking longer term, the ultimate catalyst, the real game changer, is the receipt of substantial revenue from their first commercial SMR plant deployment, whether that's in the U.S. or internationally.
When might that be?
Well, the timing is still uncertain, but based on management commentary and general expectations, it seems likely to be in the 2026-2027 timeframe. Beyond that first deployment, pursuing additional international regulatory milestones is key. Getting approvals in other countries will significantly expand their addressable market.
Makes sense.
And of course, there's the broader macro picture. Wider SMR industry adoption, driven by growing policy support for advanced nuclear both here in the U.S. and abroad, that will act as a powerful tailwind for the company.
Okay, so beyond these confirmed events and sort of longer-term trends, are there any whispers or speculation circulating?
Yeah.
Anything that could impact Nuscale's trajectory? And, how do we as informed investors separate genuine signals from just market noise here? Are any of these rumors maybe more credible than others, given what we know about the SMR space?
It's interesting you ask because, yes, it's particularly compelling that market chatter does point to several speculative catalysts right now. There's talk, for instance, of Nuscale being in late-stage discussions for major international licensing agreements, potentially in Asia or Europe.
Expanding globally.
Exactly. Which could significantly accelerate global deployments. Given their NRC lead here, securing similar approvals or partnerships abroad feels like a logical next step. Another persistent rumor suggests a finalized long-term power supply deal with a top U.S. data center provider specifically designed to support the massive infrastructure build-out for AI.
That connects back to the demand driver you mentioned.
Absolutely. This seems highly plausible, tying directly into that surging energy demand from AI we discussed earlier. Furthermore, there are some indications, whispers really, that the U.S. administration might introduce additional incentives, maybe tailored contract structures, specifically aimed at boosting domestic SMR adoption before the end of the year.
Policy support.
Right, which would align with broader clean energy policy trends. And perhaps the most exciting, though still speculative, multiple buy-side sources are apparently claiming that Nuscale could announce 2 to 3 new hard contracts for major SMR deployments before the end of 2025.
Wow, ahead of schedule.
That would indeed be ahead of the company's own public projections. So while rumors are always just rumors until confirmed, many of these do align pretty well with current industry needs and Nuscale's strategic positioning.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly promising, painting a very exciting potential future for SMRs and Nuscale's role in it. But as with any early-stage technology and, frankly, any growth company, there are always potential downsides. Risks. What are the major hurdles we really need to be aware of before getting too carried away?
That's absolutely critical for any potential investor to keep in mind. There are several significant risk factors, both specific to Nuscale and broader market or sector risks. On the stock-specific side, profitability uncertainty is, well, a major one. The company hasn't achieved break-even. It's expected to continue generating losses until those initial SMR units are actually delivered and generating revenue.
Right, the cash burn continues.
Exactly. Then there's significant execution risk. The timing of commercialization, the inherent complexity of actually manufacturing these SMRs at scale, and securing customer financing. Any of these could significantly delay cash generation.
Lots of moving parts.
Definitely. There's also customer concentration risk. Right now, they rely heavily on just a handful of early adopters. If one pulls out, it's a better impact. And finally, that identified material weakness in their financial reporting and internal controls. While they say it's being remediated, it remains a watch point for investors concerned about operational maturity and accuracy.
Okay, those are company-specific. What about the bigger picture?
Right. Considering the larger industry trend, market and sector risks also loom large. Nuclear projects, historically, have notoriously high upfront costs.
Huge capital costs.
Yes, making them very subject to government and customer funding cycles, which can be unpredictable. Regulatory uncertainty is another factor. The potential for shifting nuclear and energy regulations, especially in export markets, could impact their plans. Sector competition, as we touched on, is intensifying. Traditional nuclear players, new SMR startups, even renewables providers are aggressively expanding offerings. Rapid technological change could also erode Nuscale's first-mover advantage over time.
Technology risk.
For sure. And of course, broader market risks always apply. Things like small and mid-cap stock volatility, sensitivity to interest rates, and the general ebb and flow of money into clean energy funds.
So after this really comprehensive exploration, drilling down into the financials, the tech, the market, the risks.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for you, the potential investor listening right now? Given everything we've heard, is Nuscale PowerCore a good time to buy?
Okay, boiling it all down. Given everything we've discussed, our overall assessment for Nuscale PowerCore currently stands at about a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. So middle of the road.
Yeah, placing it firmly in a hold watch category for now. Look, Nuscale certainly holds that clear first-mover advantage, being the only U.S. SMR developer with the NRC standard design approval. That's huge. And it maintains ample liquidity, that $297.7 million in cash, and, crucially, no debt as of June 30, 2025. These are significant strengths, giving them a long runway.
Okay, those are the positives.
Right. However, the critical weakness is that no commercial deployment has actually occurred yet. Revenue remains modest, derived from services, not products, and the losses are sizable. Remember that 2024 net loss of just $191.5 million. There are major uncertainties surrounding execution, actually securing those crucial customer contracts and scaling up manufacturing efficiently. And there's always the risk of further equity dilution down the road to fund ongoing operations.
Dilution risk, always a factor.
Always. And from a technical perspective, looking at the stock chart, the setup is pretty range-bound and volatile right now. There's no strong near-term bullish or bearish bias that jumps out. So ultimately what this means is Nuscale seems best suited for extremely risk-tolerant, long-horizon investors, people who are fundamentally betting on the eventual widespread adoption of SMR technology over many years.
A long-term bet on the tech.
Exactly. The current risk-reward profile just doesn't seem favorable for most short-term trades or for more conservative long-term portfolios.
So for our listeners, it's definitely not a short-term play then. What kind of investment horizon should someone really be considering here?
Precisely. For short-term trading, the risk looks high, the price action is very event-driven, it's choppy, liquidity isn't massive, and there's potential for really heavy swings on news.
Right.
For long-term investment, it's potentially attractive and it's a big if those first commercial projects get delivered successfully and the SMR market adoption truly accelerates as many hope. But it's absolutely crucial to remember that high execution risk and financial risk persist throughout that long journey. It's really a bet on future energy infrastructure, not on immediate returns.
So summing it all up for Nuscale Power Corp, we've seen a company with a really strong regulatory lead, significant liquidity, which is great.
Yeah.
Yet it's still navigating substantial losses and the undeniable complexities of commercializing a brand new technology. It's a compelling technology, absolutely, but one that requires, well, patience and a high tolerance for risk from investors.
And this really raises an important question for you, the investor, to ponder. Given this undeniable global push for clean energy and the frankly explosive energy demands of new technologies like AI, how quickly will the SMR industry, and Nuscale specifically, actually bridge that gap? How fast can they move from these regulatory milestones, which are great, to substantial revenue-generating commercialization? What key benchmarks will you be watching for personally? What signs will tell you that maybe the investment profile is shifting? You really have to think about that balance between its first-mover advantage and the long, expensive, capital-intensive road to profitability. It's not a simple equation.
That's a great thought to leave our listeners with. Thank you for joining us for this analysis today. We certainly hope this exploration has given you a clearer picture of Nuscale Power Corp. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you found this valuable. And definitely let us know which company we should analyze next time. We'll see you on the next Investing Talk podcast.